5 fascinating facts about Schindler's List. Hey guys, today we're going to list 5 fascinating facts about Schindler's List. Let's get right into it. Number 1. Steven Spielberg had a lot of problems before making the film. First and foremost, Steven had no intention of directing. Originally, Steven Spielberg planned to produce Schindler's List while handing over the director's chair to a colleague. He considered Roman Polanski, a Holocaust survivor and a relative of some of the Schindler Juden, but he declined because the story was too personal for him. He did, however, make The Pianist about a decade later, which was also about the Holocaust. Martin Scorsese was approached, but he felt the film required a Jewish director. Before Spielberg decided to direct it himself, Sidney Lumet, Billy Wilder, and Sidney Pollack were all considered. Furthermore, he did not receive a salary. Steven Spielberg felt that taking a salary for directing Schindler's List would be blood money, so he declined. All of his film royalties and residuals have gone to the survivors of the Shoah Visual History Foundation, which records and preserves genocide survivors' testimonies. The director also removed his amusing and gimmicky E.T.-inspired Amblin logo from the film to ensure that the tone was solemn. He also refuses to sign Schindler's List related materials. Number 2. The film was almost completed in the 1960s. Keneally revealed to The Guardian in 2004 that he was looking for a new briefcase in 1980. Leopold Page, the owner of the handbag studio, invited him to look around. When he found out he was a writer, he began talking about Schindler, his savior. This conversation planted the seed of Schindler's List in Keneally's mind, despite the fact that he was only one of many showbiz people Page had spoken with. In the early 1960s, he approached the customer, the wife of film producer Marvin Gosch, about meeting her husband. According to Keneally, Leopold told me that when Marvin Gosch invited him to the MGM studios for an interview, the producer shied at him at first for being so impatient with his wife. Poldek said, "You must forgive me, but I am bringing you the greatest story of humanity man to man." Gosch collaborated on a Schindler film with Casablanca writer Howard Koch, but the project fell through. MCA or Universal president Sid Sheinberg handed Spielberg the book 2 years after Keneally met Page, and Schindler's film destiny was set. The director famously wondered if the story was true or not at the time. Number 3. Jurassic Park was produced at the same time. Schindler's List was a success at the box office. Universal, on the other hand, was concerned about the film's harrowing subject matter. They wanted Spielberg to first adapt Michael Crichton's dinosaur extravaganza as a surefire money spinner. The director juggled concentration camp horrors with rampaging raptors, and the effect was taxing. The groundbreaking CGI effects in Jurassic Park were a mountain to climb in and of themselves, albeit of lesser importance than the historical events in the other film. As quoted in an article on the Cinema Blend website this year, Spielberg said, "I had to go home about 2 or 3 times a week and get on a very crude satellite feed to Northern California to be able to approve T-Rex shots. And it built a tremendous amount of resentment and anger that I had to do this. All I could express was how angry that made me at the time. Combining commercial considerations with what was a deeply personal experience for Spielberg was difficult, but the results were critically acclaimed." Number 4. There was a real girl dressed in a red coat. The most striking image in the film was more than just an artistic choice. Schindler's List was shot in black and white, except for one scene in which a little girl in a red coat was shown in colour. Roma Ligotka, an artist, model, and author of The Girl in the Red Coat 2002, embodied the child. She and her mother fled the Krakow ghetto and took refuge in the home of a sympathetic family from the Nazis. Ligotka said in a Guardian interview that the girl in the red coat in the film is a symbol of all the children killed during the Nazi regime. In Poland alone, 1.5 million were murdered. The experiences of the film character and mine are identical, with one important difference: I survived. There's an echo of the movie in her explanation of how colour helped her in the ensuing years. She explained she used bright colours in clothing, as bold as the red coat, to keep the darker memories at bay. "Because I never had toys as a child, I needed to paint a grey and hopeless world into something more beautiful in my mind." She then added, "When times were bad, I felt clothing to be a kind of protection." Number 5. They all worked really hard. Steven Spielberg would become so depressed restaging the horrors of the Holocaust that at the end of each shoot day, he'd watch Seinfeld episodes to cheer himself up. When Jerry Seinfeld heard about this, he included a playful parody of Schindler's List in the Seinfeld two-parter, The Raincoats. In the parody, Jerry and Rachel actually watch Schindler's List, but they end up making out. This becomes the topic of one of the sitcom's signature tirades. Aaron also all but recreates Oscar's breakdown at the end of the movie when he regrets not being able to do more for Jerry's visiting parents. Meanwhile, John Williams doubted his ability to write the score. When Steven Spielberg hired John Williams, his go-to composer, to write the score for Schindler's List, he showed him an early cut of the film. Williams was so moved by the film that he needed a few moments to collect himself after it was finished. That's all for today, and we'll be sure to catch you all in the next one.